Yo! What's good, Josh Price, man? Today, I just realized I got another little part I can put my mic on. Anyway, what's good, Josh Price, man? Today, we got to talk about a few things coming out of WWE Survivor Series yesterday. Made sure I had my energy up and everything to do this video. I didn't want to just go ahead and, do it at 0.5% or anything like that. But yeah, we about to get into this right now. Quick review here. Now, y'all done probably seen other reviews. I ain't about to go through move for move all of what happened. I'm just going to go through the highlights pretty much and then give my thoughts. All right, bet. Starting off with the Women's War Games match. Excuse me. Women's War Games match was... yeah, it wasn't good, bro. No cap. I think I gave this like a 6 out of 10 at best. Because it did pick up pace at the end. Now, as far as highlights, Raquel got handcuffed to the turnbuckle. Tiffany did a swanton off the top of the cage at the same time that Io did I think she did a moonsault off the top with the garbage can on her head, which is the typical spot that she does. I guess she's going to make that a thing now. I know at this point they're going to put, I think they've made up their mind. They're just going to put Io in every War Games match ever that they have until she can't do it no more. Anyway, but then obviously the finish was Rhea putting Liv through a table. So, it wasn't none. I mean, when you look at the match, it was weird watching Nia Jax just like hit the softest chair shots imaginable. Oh man, I'm like, if you're gonna swing, like at least use a kendo stick or something. If you know you ain't gonna, my thing is like, if you don't think that you gonna hit hard with the chair, at least use a kendo stick, man. At least with that thing, you can kind of go to town. But anyway. That's how that went. Like I said, it wasn't a good match. It wasn't a good opener to the show, but this is just if you're being honest. But yeah, it was nothing special to have in this match. I guess there's still, and it's funny because I was 0-1 in predictions, but the thing is, I initially thought that the babyface team was gonna win because if you saw my preview and predictions, I said that if the goal is to get Rhea to win the title from Liv, the only thing I can see that being as the reason why that Rhea pins Liv Morgan. That's what I mean. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if I was like, okay, if the goal is to get the belt on the Rhea, which I should have went with, then they're gonna have them win, which obviously they did because she did a riptide off the top of the. I think it was like off the top rope through the table or something like that. It was a nasty spot. It was a great finish, but yeah. It just wasn't that good. I mean, it just wasn't like a whole lot of action. It wasn't a whole lot of memorable spots that you were just like, oh my god, that was like, it made it such a memorable match. So yeah, it just wasn't one of the more electric War Games matches, and probably the worst War Games match for the female side of things that we've seen, I think, in general. But overall, yeah, it just wasn't a good opener to the show. I don't have any problem with the talents involved in it, the individuals involved, but I was definitely thinking like, yeah, that it should have been more electric. But anyway, we get into the second match, and this is what I said. I predicted it was probably going to be the worst match of the night just because I didn't think their styles would mix well together, and that was LA Knight and Shinsuke Nakamura, and it turned out I was right. Only notable spot from this match was LA did do his off the top rope elbow, but they were basically having him and Shinsuke Shinsuke pretty much fighting each other, or Shinsuke was pretty much kind of getting the best of him in the match, and the finish was LA Knight's face bouncing off the metal part, and then like in between the two rings there's like this metal part. He bounced his face off of that and delivered the Kinshasa, which was a believable finish, but it was just, that was it, man. The 1, 2, 3, and Shinsuke is the new United States champion. Now, I heard some people say, oh, I'm fine with Shinsuke winning, at least they're rebuilding him, at least they're doing something with him. My gripe is this with the match. One, it wasn't that good. I mean, it wasn't given any time to cook up, or even at the times that you would have thought that, okay, now we're picking up pace. That was when the match was over. Is when you actually thought it was picking up pace. That's when the match had like 1 minute left. So it didn't really get a chance to get into a groove that you would have started enjoying the match. And then also is I don't really think people want to see Shinsuke Nakamura in 2024, man. Like I feel like his last glory days to me was like 2018. I wouldn't even watch wrestling at that time, but to me his last glory days was, from what I've seen, like his last glory days was like 2018 as far as him being over and the crowd wanting to see him and singing along with his song. So yeah, Shinsuke in 2024 being pushed is just kind of and even if you want to rebuild Shinsuke and try to get some interest back into him as a heel, why are we just putting a title on him for that reason and that reason only, right? We're trying to rebuild Shinsuke, we're trying to do something with him. Well, that's the whole point of having storylines, guys. You give them stories to build them back up, right? You have them compete against, credible challengers. Like when for example, when he had beat Andrade, and right, if he would have beat other credible challengers, and maybe this would lead to a U.S. title match, then maybe, and you let him get over with the crowd, then this would have been a little different. But because they had Shinsuke come back, and within 3 weeks of him being back, he already wins the U.S. title, even though the crowd has not been booing him or he's gotten, you suck chance or whatever. It's not like the crowd's in the Shinsuke and they just gave him a title. So I think the problem with Triple H in this situation is you're giving titles to people hoping that it gets them over rather than the other way around. They get over and for that they earn a title. And you could be an upcoming talent or an established talent or a legend. And if to me, I see it like this. If you're over enough and you're going to be there for a good while, you should be getting a championship. If you're over as an upcoming talent, as an established talent, or as a legend who's, having another run and, whatever the case may be, I think those, as I see it like this, is kind of like, as long as you're over, whether that be as a heel or a face, as long as you're over, that should warrant you winning a championship at some point. Unless you just don't need it, it should warrant you winning a championship. So, yeah. The last thing I'm going to say about this is, man, LA Knight's title reign was unfortunate because of one reason. He had absolutely zero, zero people that were over. Because you look at Carmelo, you look at Andrade, you look at Santos Escobar, you look at Shinsuke, you look at, Ludwig Kaiser had worked because he was in his home country, but you look at all the people LA Knight faced, none of these people were over. All of these are like heels that they, I guess you could say want to get over, but aren't doing a whole lot to get them there. I mean, at this point, if they would have thrown Austin Theory or Grayson Waller into this U.S. title mix, it still wouldn't have made a difference. Because, again, these are all guys that maybe they have some talent, but right now, none of those people I just named are getting reactions. So that's, to me, what made LA Knight's title reign flop, is because none of these guys are over. And then there also wasn't a whole lot of effort put into the story. Like, for example, Carmelo Hayes and the LA Knight, I thought that was going to be a really good story, and they're going to trade back promos and maybe do some angles. I thought they were going to do like a whole storyline, but no, they just fast-tracked them into a match on SmackDown, and then they had a triple threat with him and Andrade, and LA Knight, Andrade, and Melo at Crown Jewel, which was a good match, but... And even then, some people were saying they should run that triple threat match back. I'm not a big fan of doing a rematch of a triple threat, but honestly, that would have been more exciting than what we ended up getting. And yeah, to me, I'm not a big fan of, like I said, putting the title on people to get them over rather than them getting over and getting a title for that. But to me, at least with Melo, it would have been like, okay, he's finally starting to win. He's going to call himself him, and he says he don't miss. And the perfect thing for that type of, character, or I guess you could say gimmick and whatnot, would have probably been, if he don't miss, right? Boom, give him the United States Championship. See what he can do with the United States Championship, right? Put it on Melo, see what he can do with it. And then now you have your two faces of NXT, former faces of NXT, right? Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes, they were Shawn Michaels' handpicked guys when they did the new NXT. And it would have been like a full circle moment, right? Both of them are now the mid-card champions in WWE. So it just would have made sense to me if they would have done that. But They didn't. And now to me, Logan Paul, he was again one of those, he was over as a heel. And obviously he's a big name. LA Knight, he's over as a face. Now you get to Shinsuke and it's like, oh man, the US title to me now feels like it's going right back to just getting put on random people just because they can do a couple of nice wrestling moves rather than, oh, they're over and maybe can also do good wrestling moves. Like now, when they put it on Logan, again, at least he was over as a heel. LA Knight over as a face. Shinsuke, so now we've put the title on somebody who doesn't get a reaction. Like I said, with Melo, at least you would have been able to see, okay, now that Melo's a champion, let's give him more mic time. Let's give him more chance to get heat with the crowd. Let's see if he can get over. At least with Melo, you can experiment there and it make a little more sense, but they didn't go with that. They went with, I would have been for Melo beating LA Knight, but they went with Shinsuke, man. But hopefully it goes well. Hopefully this really is a different, a breath of fresh air, and we can do something with this U.S. title. Because like I said, right now, it to me, it's gone back to relevancy. Like I said, with Logan, what saved him was he was a name, and he was over with the crowd as a heel. And then LA Knight was obviously one of the most popular baby faces. So it's like it worked, right? They both have credibility over with the audience. So it worked. But now they've put it back on and they put it on Shinsuke and it's like, to me, that's like complete interest killer. But anyway, I gave the match like a 5 out of 10 because I love LA Knight. You may have heard it before, he's in my top 5 of my favorite wrestlers for those who don't know of today. For those who don't know, it's Trick Williams, Logan Paul, LA Knight, Roman, and Rock as my favorite wrestlers today. But like wrestling actively. Obviously, Cena will boot somebody from that list when he comes back. But anyway, but it just wasn't a good match. So I was 0-2 in predictions. It really should have been 1-1 if I would have gone my initial instinct, but I'm going to keep it fair. So I was 0-2 on predictions. Match numero 3. Intercontinental Championship match. Braun Breaker versus Ludwig Kaiser versus Sheamus. Triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship. Now I felt they tied the story in well with Ludwig Kaiser basically constantly costing Sheamus his, Intercontinental. Every time Sheamus would go after the Intercontinental title, he would have to worry about Ludwig, or Braun Breaker would have to worry about Ludwig. So Ludwig constantly put himself in their matches and it would cause like a DQ finish and stuff like that. So I actually did think this triple threat made sense. I'm not saying the storyline was immaculate, but I felt because Ludwig constantly got involved in their matches and it would end in DQ, it actually did make sense for him to be involved in this. But yeah, they did good. They had one of those bangers as they call it. So I gave this match like an 8.5 out of 10. Braun Breaker, I'm trying to think if I remember anything. I know Braun Breaker hit like one crazy looking shoulder tackle. He like got a lot of height and hit a shoulder tackle out on the floor. Sheamus, think he might have hit a bro kick, but it got broken up by Ludwig. It was a great false finish. And then Braun Breaker just turned it up to 11 when Ludwig had hit like some type of DDT on Sheamus. And Sheamus, and I saw it coming. I was like, oh, the spear's coming. And it did. Braun speared Ludwig out of his boots. And then he speared Sheamus. For the 1, 2, 3, man. I think he pinned Sheamus. Did he pin Sheamus? No, because I think he speared Sheamus last. So I think he might have pinned Sheamus after Ludwig had hit him with a move. So then, yeah, that was it. 1, 2, 3. And, Braun Breaker also did his, as they call it, the Frankensteiner off the top rope. The, top rope hurricanranaism off the top. I think he did that to Sheamus. But, yeah, it was a bang. You can't really call much action. It was just a banger match. Both guys did their thing, and they did it well, man. So what do you expect? So this is what really brought up the crowd. Finally, Vancouver wasn't that great of a crowd tonight either. No offense, but they just weren't. But this is definitely the one thing that I figured would bring the crowd up, because this is one of those, some people say, oh, this should be a great match, and then it disappoints. To me, this was one of those matches where, like, this could not have. Some matches can't disappoint. Like, it's one of those. Put these guys in the ring, there's no way it's bad. And that's how I felt going into this match. Like, some matches you'll put together and thought it was going to be better, and then it's like, this is one of those matches I'm like, yeah, there's no way. Unless both guys are handicapped, this match, no way. Unless somebody got injured, there's no way this match wasn't going to freaking deliver. So, and it did. So, 8.5 out of 10, I think I gave this match. but they did their thing. And then we roll on to Gunther versus Priest. I gave this an 8 out of 10. Now, mind you, I was like, driving and stuff like that, so I was paying attention to the matches, but there were times where I wasn't paying attention as much. This was the only match I didn't focus on every single little detail, so I remember the crowd being up. I remember some good stuff, but I don't really remember move for move what happened. But I do remember the finish, and that was apparently they're still doing this Damian Priest and Finn feud. Good Lord. Even though they have not insinuated that they would still be feuding, but whatever. Referees was turned to Gunther, and on the outside, I think Damian Priest got thrown out on the floor, and the referee had like his attention on Gunther, and Balor, I think he jumped off the steps and delivered a coup de grace to Priest on the floor, and then Priest passed out with I think he got hit with a clothesline, then a power bomb. I think it was like a power bomb and then a sleeper or something like that, and he passed out. And they're still telling the story of Gunther hating the fact that he has asterisks to some of his wins. And and by the way, shout out to Gunther, man. I think he delivered a big boot to Finn Balor. Like, he didn't care, bro. He did not want Finn to help him. So after Balor delivered the move, he booted the freaking crap out of him after that. And it was just so hilarious how Gunther was like, I don't want your help. And so he knocked him out first. Then he put away Damian Priest. I just thought that was funny. But yeah. Like I said, 8 out of 10 match. Crowd was it was definitely getting good reactions. Again, it kept rolling on as far as like keeping them momentum. It's funny, first 2 matches disappointed, second 2 matches picked them up. It's like they tried to even it out. And yeah, so he retains his championship, as we pretty much knew. And what happened after, or what I want to talk about would probably be, again, nice match. Knew Gunther wasn't gonna lose. The main talk here is just, one, does Gunther face Seth or Punk? I mean, that's kind of the only options right now, right? He's got to face either Seth Rollins or CM Punk as far as credible baby faces that we would want to see him against. I doubt this leads to a third match, especially since they're turning Damian Priest's attention over to Balor now, and they had a whole backstage brawl on WWE's Twitter that they showed. So yeah. I don't know why we're still doing Damian Priest and Finn Balor. I think it's one of those, and I was thinking about this before I got on the camera. I think this is a situation of WWE not having enough over heels, so they're reverting back to the ones we've seen multiple times, or not multiple times, but Damian Priest and Finn Balor. It makes no sense for them to keep feuding, considering Priest beat them and one and done, and then they started focusing on the tag division. So it's kind of like, why are these tag guys in singles, why is Finn in a singles feud as a tag team champion? It's just, I don't know. But I don't know why they're still feuding. I truly think it's because WWE doesn't have any heels for Damian Priest, who's supposed to be one of their top baby faces. I truly think they don't have any heels for him to go against. Like, Chad Gable, they're not going to put him up against him, I doubt. Because that'd be moving down the card as far as presentation. Technically, him going to Chad Gable would be moving down the card. So you would have to put Damian Priest in there with another main event heel. And unfortunately, on Monday Night Raw, the only main event heels right now are Gunther and Drew McIntyre. And we've already seen Priest and McIntyre. So, I don't know. But yeah, hopefully we get Drew back on television. I don't know what face he's going to feud with. But yeah, WWE most definitely needs to build more heels. Like, for example, Braun Breaker and Dominic Mysterio, I would still consider them mid-card heels because they're Braun Breaker is consistently getting over with the crowd, and Dominic is obviously over, but no one's thinking Dom needs to be world champion or anything. So that's why I say the only top heels, like main event heels, been world champions, is, like I said, Drew and Gunther. And so yeah, but I don't know what they're gonna do with Priest. I think they're just reverting back to this feud because I feel like they've realized that they don't really have any heels at the top of the card for Damian Priest to feud with. So I think that's why they put him back with Balor, because they're like, shoot, we don't know what to do with Priest. As far as we don't have any heels for him to feud against. If he's supposed to be one of our top baby faces, obviously if a top babyface is not going after a title, he should be involved in a main event storyline with another top heel. That's what they did with Punk and Drew. So Damian Priest, he doesn't have a top heel to feud against, so I truly think that's why they went back to it. But yeah, I don't think anybody needs to see Finn and Damian again. And there's no story. I mean, what are they gonna do? More beatings, more, the cutting the same promos. That's why it's like really not anything else you could do with them. But anyway, Balor has some credibility. Maybe you could say he's a top heel, but even then he's in a tag division, so it's a whole thing. But anyway, moving on to the main event of the matter. There's a few things to talk about here as far as the highlights. Shout out Jacob Fatu, man. I already knew once he got in the cage for Team Bloodline, or the team original Bloodline versus, with some help, versus the new Bloodline. So you had Solo, Tama Tonga Loa, Bronson Reed, and Jacob Fatu versus Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, the Usos, and CM Punk. Only notable thing from this match as far as a couple highlights is they were obviously telling that story of Roman and Punk having tension. And it's crazy to see those two, man, like, two top stars that we're like waiting to see that feud. A lot of people are saying that's like pretty much your SummerSlam 2025 main event there. But yeah, on one of the nights, because they got two nights now. But anyway, basically when Punk tried to go outside the cage, Roman stopped. I think it started with Jey Uso. They all did their separate entrances, and Jey Uso went last. And because, they got the yeeting and all that, so they wanted to save that for last. And he was going to be starting the match. So they started the match with Jey Uso and Tama Tonga. And Tama Tonga freaking climbing the cage. It was funny, the meme somebody made. Somebody's like when Spider-Man first got bit by the spider. And they put up the video of Tama Tonga crawling around the cage, because that's what he was doing. He was like crawling up the cage and going to like the sides of the cage as he was. So it was funny. But yeah, so they started off with Jay and Tama, and basically Jimmy came. It was like, I think the heels had the advantage because they won their advantage match. So the Tama Tonga gets help first, and I think how it went was so Jacob Fatu was the second person to get into the match. So already we're getting Jacob in there. It's like crazy. But yeah, Jacob, I think it was Bronson Reed. I think it was Bronson Reed first. That's who helped him. And then Jay had Jimmy helping him, his brother. And then the third person to come out I guess because Tama started, Big Bronson Reed came out first. I guess that's second. So yeah, third person to come out was Jacob Fatu. And it's like, bro, Jacob Fatu and Big Bronson Reed, that's a heck of a unit you're going to have to fight against. So it was basically started with Jay, then it was Tama, then it was Bronson Reed, then it was Jimmy. So it was the Usos versus, it was pretty much Usos and then Big Bronson Reed and Tama Tonga. And then they had Jacob Fatu come in that mug. So then it was 3-on-2. Then it was 3v3 when Sammy would come out to help the Usos. And that's because when Punk was going to come out, Roman put his hand on his chest, stopped him from getting out the cage and said, nah, Sammy, you go. So they're telling that story of like them not getting along, and that could potentially cost them the match. And then Tonga Loa comes in. Then when Roman tries to come out the cage, Punk shoulder tackles him a bit, like he shoves past him and go, nah, I'm getting in there. So he walked past Roman as he saw Roman trying to get in. And then Solo got in there. Then last but not least, the OTC, Roman Reigns. He got in there last. And Solo had locked the cage. And so Roman had to climb the cage. And he was knocking people down as they were trying to stop him from getting in. And then Roman did a high cross body off the top rope and laid out all the new Bloodline members. I just thought that was so funny, seeing a dude that big do a, because Roman's a heavyweight, so doing that high cross body is hilarious to see that from him, because, especially with his tribal chief demeanor, you don't expect somebody like that to do a high flying move. So it was funny how he pulled that one out. But notable spots in the match, probably the most notable parts of the match, Punk hit everybody with a toolbox. That was hilarious because he was outnumbered, so he made sure that he freaking did his thing there. So he hit him with the toolbox, and then he did the running knee in the corner, and then he did a bulldog on top of the toolbox to Jacob Fatu, but Jacob just made it seem like it was absolutely nothing, which was fantastic. And then he retaliated with a freaking, I think he popped CM Punk up and delivered a Samoan drop. So yeah, Jacob was definitely the MVP of this match. Trying to think of anything else. I know the Usos, I think they delivered a Uso splash where they both splashed the guy. I forgot who they did it to though. Was it Jacob or was it Tonga Loa? It was somebody they delivered a double frog splash to. But then Jacob did a moonsault on, I forgot who he did a moonsault on. he did a moonsault on somebody, and I'm trying to think how the tables broke. So the tables broke from first Bronson Reed was gonna splash Roman through the table, but then Punk saved Roman, and you got Bronson Reed splashed himself through the table because, like I said, Punk saved him last minute, and that led to them officially being on the same page. But before, Heyman had came out, and Roman and Punk were kind of arguing with each other, and then Heyman came down outside the cage to kind of basically tell them that they have to work together. And like I said, I think after that they got beat up. And then, like I said, that spot where Bronson Reed went to the top of the cage, splashed himself through the table because Punk got Roman out of the way. So there was that. And then that basically solidified their partnership as Roman. I think he was going to help up Punk, but then he got like hit by somebody. I think it was Jacob. I forget all the names, but he got hit by somebody. And then the other table spot was I think Sammy delivered like a blue thunder bomb, I think, to Tonga Loa, and then like they put Jacob on the table, and Jimmy went all the way to the top of the cage, and he splashed Jacob Fatu through the table, which believably took him out of the match. Now, before that, there was a part where Jacob delivered a moonsault, and he went for another moonsault on the Punk, and he landed kind of awkwardly. Now, the reports are that Bronson Reed and Jacob Fatu both got, or I think it was, no, it was not Jake. Was it Jimmy and Jacob? Yeah, it was Jimmy and Jacob. Was it Jimmy and Jacob, or was it Jimmy and... I heard Jimmy and Jacob, but then I thought Bronson Reed was involved in that, so I don't know. It was like those guys potentially injured, but I think Jimmy, I think they said like he broke his toe or something like that when he did the splash off the top of the cage, which makes sense that you would hurt something doing that. But yeah, different guys reportedly may be injured, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, so that's how those table spots happened. And then the finish of the match was everybody was down, everybody was taken out by the new bloodline, and that leaves Solo in the middle of the ring by himself because, like I said, everybody else had gotten taken out. And so we saw a super kick from both of the Usos to Solo, and then Sammy delivered a haluva kick, and then Punk delivered a GTS, and then Roman delivered a spear, and this all happened to Solo in that order. So yeah, Solo went through it, but that was Roman pin Solo 1-2-3. New Bloodline wins the Survivor Series 2024 War Games men's match, and like I said, him and Punk, helped. I think him and Punk basically shook hands at the end, and they all raised the ones up, and Punk did the go to sleep. He did the, they all raising the ones up, and Punk did the go to sleep, because he's his own thing, so he's not gonna freaking do it with him. But he does that, and then they walk out the cage, and then I think Punk said something to Heyman like, "Oh, I'm gonna call you up when I need a favor," type of thing. When I'm due for my favor type of thing. And they picked that up on the camera audio, and then Roman gave Paul a little pat on the back, and they all walked up to the ramp. In between where the cage is at, they walked all the way back up to the ramp, did the pose again, and we went off the air. Now, I thought when they went up to the ramp where the cages were, for the, where they were, sitting there for the, to waited to get into the War Games match, I thought that Rock was gonna show up or something was gonna happen there, because I'm like, why are they making this long shot with them going all the way back up to the entranceway? Because they could have just ended the show with all of them raising their, signature, poses, and then the show could have went off the air there, but they didn't stop there. I guess they wanted to maybe tell that story with like Punk and Roman, as they said something to Heyman, so maybe they wanted to get that shot, or wanted to get people to, hear that, and then they, like I said, went back up to the entranceway. But I gave this match about a 9 out of 10. I don't know what would have made it a 10 out of 10. Maybe if there was one more crazy spot, I might have gave it a 10 out of 10, but but I will say this match didn't need a lot of crazy spots. They did really well in this match. It was paced pretty well, and one of those goes to show you when you're so into the story, you don't need a whole lot of crazy spots, as I just said, as certain matches. Like when we saw them in NXT, those relied more on the wrestling. Not that there wasn't story, but those were more about the wrestling and the cool moves. But then the Bloodline War Games matches are a lot more story driven because they're, you know, the biggest thing in WWE, and that's pretty much their biggest storyline outside of, you know, Cody and Kevin. So yeah. Overall, I think I gave this PLE a 7 out of 10, 7 to 7.5. Because if we're being fair, the last 3 matches cooked, right? 8.5, 8, 9 out of 10 matches. And then I'll give the first 2 like a 6 and a 5. So I think the fair way to say that this PLE was for Survivor Series 2024, I think you give that a 7 to even a 7.5, just because the last match did a lot to really help the PLE get back up on its feet. So I think you can give this at least maybe 7.5 out of 10. I don't think it's fair to say 8 out of 10, because like I said, those first 2 matches, ugh. So that's why I say 7 or 7.5 to me is the fair rating for this PLE. But y'all let me know exactly how y'all felt about it. We can have some discussions in the chat, but those were my initial thoughts on it. I don't know what's going to happen with, you know, like I said, when we get my boy Rock coming back into the mix. Obviously, I'm hoping that's setting up for him versus Roman finally, so we can get it at WrestleMania 41. And yeah, we'll just see how their story continues to play out and everything like that, and what they do with the Bloodline from here. I mean, they just had a Bloodline Civil War, so I don't really know. As far as Solo and Roman, I don't know what else they're gonna do, because I guess they haven't had a singles match, but I don't know if they're just gonna do that, and they still haven't done Roman and Jacob, so there's still some stuff left to do, but I don't know how they're gonna tell that story going forward. But hey, they got you invested, they got you not knowing all of what's gonna happen, and that's why we are along for the ride, man. We're excited. Hopefully everything plays out well. But at the end of the day, what can I say? What it's going to be is this Prodigy continue to come out with the content that features the bangers over and over again for you guys. Like, comment, and subscribe before you go. Like I said, let me know how you felt about Survivor Series. And maybe something you did, something you like, something you didn't like, whatever. Let's have a discussion. But I appreciate you guys. Golly. Until then, I shall see you guys in the next video. This is DJ White. So without further ado, let's get it. So I'll see you young boys and girls in the next video. Peace.